I was born and raised in West London, and the area that I actually grew up in was quite rough. I come from a broken family. There was a lot of crime, drug abuse, alcohol abuse. I was always out the house, I was never at home. Even almost to date, I was always chasing something, always doing something different, something new hobbies. So I was always looking for something.
So I was at a point in my faith when I really wanted everyone to know Jesus, and so I was sharing my faith to anyone who would listen, but it wasn't really getting through, and to be honest, I kind of got used to people saying no.
At the age of 14, I dropped out of school due to bullying and started working with my uncle in the building industry. Over the next 10 years or so, I got to a point in my life where I felt like my life was going okay. You know, like life's meant to be. But I felt so empty that nothing could fill that void. It was causing me to fill my life with things that weren't good for me.
The only thing I cared about was just developing my relationship with God. And I got to a point where I realized that actually just the way I lived was what was going to draw people to Jesus. So I came across this online community called Yes He Is. And I really loved what they were doing because they were sharing tips on how to share Jesus.
So I found the climbing wall. You forget about everything else that's going on. I didn't feel that emptiness. All that disappears because you're just in the moment.
I was in between jobs and I decided to go to the climbing gym because I wanted to do something new while also meeting people at the same time. I didn't want to miss an opportunity, so when I saw that Glenn had this tattoo of a guitar on his arm, I said, hey, we've got a band at church, you should come and check it out. But I didn't actually expect that he would come.
I would have potentially gone, but when I left the gym, I basically forgot him. From the outside, everyone definitely thought like I'm like just one of those guys, easygoing and happy, like getting on with life. But my internal world was pretty dark. If I was honest, yeah, it wasn't a great place. I was in a deep gambling addiction. I felt like I was drowning in this addiction. Through that, I was getting to a position of probably borderline depression. At that time of my life, I was always on the move. I would never be at home. I think I wanted to be free from my addictions. I needed a way out, I needed help, and I couldn't find it at the time. One Sunday I was heading to climbing. On my way I noticed that the church signs was up, and I ended up finding myself walking into the church.
Over the next couple of months, he just kept coming back to church, and then he just came to house group one day.
In the world, people seem like they've got a mask up and they only show you what they want you to see. In this group, it was the complete opposite. I've never seen that love and trueness like that before. 2 days after, I was driving, listening to worship songs that were sent, and I felt a rush of joy and peace, and tears were flowing down my eyes, and a massive weight was lifted off my shoulders. It was an incredible experience. I knew that from that point that this was all real and my life was going to change.
I came across this post that said, if you've got a friend who's curious about Jesus, why don't you just ask them if they'd like to invite him into their lives? Even though I felt nervous, I just asked him because there wasn't anything I had to lose.
And I actually declined her to start with. But it was 2 days later when I called her back and asked her, what was that question you asked me? And at that point, I accepted Jesus into my life.
It felt like I was experiencing Jesus for the first time in my life when I saw someone else going through that experience.
Life now it's worth living. Life is wonderful. I have purpose, I have meaning, I have joy, I have outlook for the future. I feel like no matter where I am in my life, I would be happy regardless of anything. And that one thing that I was always chasing, always looking for, it was God the whole time. It was Jesus. It was his love.